Hey, Vaughn.
Hey, Kim.
Here we are with less than a week and counting until the Super Bowl, or as anyone who is not the NFL is allowed to call it, the big game.
Right. We discussed that last week.
We did. And it's so funny because I actually was just reading a recipe that I saw and it said the Super Bowl, but then it like crossed it out and said, excuse me, the big game. So maybe they're avoiding penalty that way.
The petty
Petty. But like they don't have enough money and attention. But anyway.
Exactly.
Before we get started, I just have to send out birthday greetings to Mr. Vita Vea.
Oh, okay.
The man in the mountain, number 50, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not sure how old he is actually, but it is in fact his birthday today. So happy birthday, Vita Vea. You have a friend in me.
I don't know if he's 30 yet. I doubt he's
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But yeah, that's all over Tampa today because he's kind of a big deal around here.
Right.
So today for our fundamentals, you are going to take us through a little bit what it is like this week for the teams who are playing, what their preparation might be, what they're experiencing, and then we will discuss our final meal decisions. And then we'll move into the frenzy. So let's get started with what is Super Bowl week like for these players and these teams?
So last week, obviously, everyone practiced at their own facilities. And that, although I guess the main difference there is probably the ticket issues that crop up because you get, if my memory serves me correctly, you can purchase up to 20, 25 tickets, and trust me, everyone wants to go to the Super Bowl when you're going, right? So, and your coach is hammered into you get all your ticket stuff taken care of this week while we're here. But other than that, it's relatively a normal work week. You probably get a day or two extra off just in terms of you have a whole 2 weeks to prep for the game. You want to keep things similar. Take advantage of those extra days, but at the same time, get everyone healthy, get everyone rested as much as you can. Then, as we all know, because it's a big deal when teams fly into the host city, fly in Sunday night. When we did it back in January 95, Monday was the day we took our team picture. Now, since it's kind of, it's a long week, and so I'm assuming teams do things similarly. My experience was that the first part of the week we got to stay with our families at the hotel. So curfew check was we had curfew every night. I think the first night, like Sunday night, I want to say it was maybe 1 o'clock, then starts tapering down. I think Monday was 11 o'clock, and then but your family's allowed to stay with you, and it's kind of a, hey, call up, check, see if you're in your room versus the normal, they're opening the door. Hey, are you in here? Are you tucked in? Right. And then, but at the end of the week, we left and went to a separate hotel for those last couple days. And so but I wanted to bring that up because we had, I think, upwards of 10 guys miss the team picture on Monday. Yeah.
And wait, what city was your Super Bowl in?
I was in Miami, so great party town, right?
Yeah.
And we had a handful of guys. It was 6 to 10 guys missed the team picture, so that started off our week. Wasn't great. Bobby Ross, who was such a, he had that military background, such a stickler for being disciplined, being where you're supposed to be. He was so upset. Mm-hmm. And then as the big day is Tuesday also, because that's the media day where everyone gets to, ask their silly questions. I know Jimmy Kimmel likes to send Guillermo,
he was there. I was watching.
Yes. And there are some relevant questions to the game and just, what everyone's experience is. And then after that, they try to dial into this is because, as Tuesday's the main day off in the NFL. So then Wednesday through the end of the week, they try to make it as similar to a regular game as possible. And so my experience was, again, Bobby Ross, old school. We had 2 fully padded practices on Wednesday, Thursday. There was no let off. A lot of teams kind of back down on the hard work in terms of, because it's so late in the year. You're in the Super
Mhm.
Bowl, you played so many games, but Bobby Ross did not believe in that. He believed in we're going to still hit and still have physical practices leading up to the game. And then Friday, you back off again. And then that's the day that we went to a separate hotel, the players, just to kind of
So
get away.
can I jump in there for a second? So in my head, I'm thinking the logistics of that all have got to be crazy because, first of all, Super Bowl host city, a lot of people are in town. Not, I
Yeah.
mean, aside from the teams and everyone that's traveling with the teams and the media
Yes.
and the performers and the fans, the hotel situation has got to be somewhat limited. I would think so. I mean, how in the world did they orchestrate all that? Because you don't know you're going to play in the Super Bowl until 2 weeks before.
Right.
Like, that's kind of crazy to me when I think about things like that.
Well, if I remember correctly, we were nowhere near Miami, and the point of that
Okay,
is so hopefully no one gets tempted, sneaks out of the hotel, and you have there's stories over the years about different guys
right.
who have Barrett Robbins famously missed the Super Bowl because and that was actually in San Diego, and
When he was in Mexico.
he ended up in Mexico, missed the game. So again, Miami, South Beach, they get us as far away from South Beach as they possibly can and still be able to get to the game on Sunday.
Do you think that's the case in most cities then? Probably. I don't know where they stayed when it was in Tampa.
Well, I think it depends. Certain cities have reputations that precede them, Miami being one of them. New
Well,
Orleans,
Tampa.
maybe to an extent, New Orleans, Tampa.
Minnesota, they probably didn't have any problems
I'm sorry. Oh,
in
right, exactly.
Minneapolis.
Exactly. Yes. Agreed. And you know what? For the record, I'm not a fan of cold weather Super Bowl. I'm
I
just
know.
not. And to be quite honest, even though we're no longer in the NFL, San Diego still should be used as a host city, right? It's just
Agreed. Oh, yeah,
everyone loved coming to San Diego. Whoa, what a great
absolutely.
Super Bowl it was. I was seeing teammates I hadn't seen years. I bumped into a teammate from UCLA who I didn't even know. Like, I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm here for the Super Bowl, right? Like, just so it's ridiculous that. Well, okay, I'm off. Let me get off my soapbox. Anyway,
Well, I will also say though that back when you were in your Super Bowl, there was no Airbnb. Like, so
no,
literally any fan who came to town for a Super Bowl,
needed a
they had to
hotel.
stay in a hotel.
Yes,
There were no other options. There's probably a few more options now for fans and the performers anyway of where
yes.
they could stay.
Some of the cool things about this week for the players are that because most players have shoe contracts with whether it's Nike or to be quite honest, I don't know every uh, shoe company out there that has a contract with the NFL and can have contracts, but when you do, you get a nice big Super Bowl package in terms of sweatsuits, shoes, gifts for the family. So it's not just we previously talked about the money you get, but it is kind of like when you're in college and you go to a bowl game, the host committee gives you a bunch of super cool gifts.
Yeah,
Maybe watches that have the NFL the Super Bowl for that year's logo and blaze. So you get a lot of swag, right? Which is kind of
yeah,
cool. And a lot of
yeah.
guys, especially the Chiefs guys, I imagine, as many Super Bowls as they have now been to, they're probably giving a lot of that stuff away. But it's still nice, right? Still nice to be
Sure,
appreciated.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that goes on this week. The other thing is for teams that it's their first experience there. So both of these teams have been to the Super Bowl in the last couple few years.
2 years.
So one thing these teams will do, they obviously know, but new teams will find someone. And it's all these coaches all know each other. They'll talk to someone. Hey, what's the week like? So because it's planning again, they want to make it as similar as possible. Well, certain things are different. take for example during the game, halftime is much longer than the normal halftime because of the
Right.
time
Yeah.
show, right? It's such an
Yeah. Yeah.
extravaganza. They're moving big pieces in and moving them out, and so
Clearing smoke out of the air.
right. So teams want to be prepared for that. Hey, it's not the normal deal. Hydrate, maybe even take your pads off, your shoulder pads off, cool down, and make sure you're stretched out because you will cool down just naturally. Make sure
Yeah.
you're stretched and ready to go for the second half. So there's a lot of logistical things, as you said, as you alluded to earlier, that are a little bit different this week, even though the big push, everyone hates the change. Everyone's trying to make it as similar to a regular season game as possible. So, and yeah, and you still have, like I said earlier in the week, you have an opportunity. You definitely have family and friends in town, so you get a chance to go out, experience some of the city. But again, you have a curfew that gets sooner and sooner as the week progresses. So,
So I envision the curfew. So when I was in high school and I was in the all-state choir in
mhm.
New Mexico,
Okay,
and we traveled from Santa Fe to Albuquerque, and once we got in our rooms and it was curfew, you know what they did?
what's that?
They taped our door. Like put all this tape across everyone's door. So like if you got out, like they knew, or you
Right.
couldn't get out. But we just went out on the balcony and we figured it out. But did they tape your door?
No one taped the door. But a week like this, it's not just your team's security. Probably it's likely NFL security as well.
Right. Yeah.
They probably got people stationed on each floor at each
Yeah.
entrance to the floors, because again, especially in this day and age with how good people are with the digital piece and the technology piece, they know where they're staying. They know what
Right.
locker rooms they're probably staying at. And so, prank calls to the rooms. So they try to fight against all those type of things. And again, they don't want, and again, which is why.
Didn't didn't one year, was it the Super Bowl, that there was like a false alarm fire something?
It sounds vaguely some familiar.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Why are people such jerks? I swear. I don't like Kansas City, but I can't even imagine doing anything like that. That's just mean.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to win that way anyway if you were
No.
invested in it, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
What was your I mean, I know it was your rookie year and everything was probably like,
yes.
crazy exciting to you, but what would be the moment that stands out the most to you of your Super Bowl experience? The
Oh, good
one thing that you
question.
just know you'll never ever forget.
I think going out to the field, right? So most teams are very similar. Specialists go out, then the skill position goes out, then the strength positions go out last. And I remember being in the tunnel, waiting to go out, and like I was bright eyed and just trying to take it all in, and just like all the cameras, because there's so much more media. Yeah, it was crazy, right? And it was like, it was kind of, the sun was kind of setting, but it wasn't quite set, and just the way it looked. And so I remember how it looked running out on that field and how I felt running out. All I was doing was playing special teams at the time, but still, it was kind of a special feeling. Like, okay, man, how awesome will it be? And I kind of remember in the moment, I remembered how I felt when Gibson, our middle linebacker, knocked the pass down against Pittsburgh 2 weeks earlier. That feeling of elation when it was like, oh, we're going to Super Bowl, and I was kind of projecting if we got a similar moment like that, what it would feel like it would be crazy. And so I was looking forward to that, and then unfortunately, like you do sometimes, we ran into a buzzsaw, and they were up 14 before we knew it. Couple busts in the secondary, and that's just, it went the way it went. But yeah, that's the moment I remember.
Well, that actually just gave me chills. I mean, because really, like, that's an experience that what percentage of people in the world ever have? It's,
Right.
something that's just so unique and had to be so cool.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool. And I got to, another thing is I got to experience it with my parents and my sister. They obviously came down, and I didn't even use all 20 of my tickets. Like I just didn't have that many people that were going to come down. A couple of my cousins came down, so I remember going to dinner with them a couple nights, and so that was a great experience, especially for my dad. He just always loved that type of stuff, and
Sure.
yeah,
Wow, that's very cool.
yeah.
We were in Miami this past weekend to early celebrate Elizabeth's birthday. And I do have to say, we had two really good meals down there.
Oh yeah, man. Mine is great
Expensive,
food.
expensive, like kind of ridiculously expensive, honestly. But that's just the way it is right
Yeah,
now. But
yeah.
yeah, some really good meals.
Well,
One,
something else I'll tell you real quick is I was actually in Miami. Call it a month before that because one of my best friends from my high school played for the Hurricanes at the time,
oh,
and they were playing in the Orange Bowl against Nebraska. We had the bye week, the first round of the playoffs, so I flew and watched him play in the Orange Bowl,
oh, that's cool.
hoping I'd get back, and then sure enough, we beat Miami, we beat Pittsburgh, and then we go back to Miami, right? So,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we digressed a little bit into food. Should we move into our meal planning, or is there
Sure.
anything else you want to share with us about this week?
No, no, no. We're all set. We can get into the food.
Let's get to the food. So I think that I finalized our menu here. We're just a small little group of our family. So I am thinking I am going to do the artichoke dip because that's just kind of a must have. It's so
Yeah.
good. And then I have recently discovered the best way to make quesadillas. I have a panini press.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking roasted vegetable quesadillas with remember when I was in Santa Fe, I was telling you about my favorite restaurant, The Shed? I have a couple jars of that sauce. So that for dipping.
Nice.
James is going to do wings based on your instructions. So blotting the chicken, there'll be a lot of blotting going on of chicken and artichokes here. So he's going to do wings. And then we are going to do a kale Caesar salad.
Okay.
I think that's going to be like the spread. And then maybe another, maybe some chips, maybe like something, maybe ice cream sandwiches for like dessert. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're thinking.
Okay.
I know it
Another.
doesn't really hold a candle to what you're doing.
Well, just quickly, I'll say a tip I forgot to mention last week is, especially if you're doing them in the oven, is before you put them in, after you blot them, if you give them a shellacking of butter
Oh,
before they go in, that helps crisp them up also.
okay, James, you got that shellacking with butter. I wrote it down too, in case you didn't hear me.
uh, So our menu is still kind of being sussed out right now, but we do know for lunch on because obviously Saturday night's going to be a big night. The wine will be flowing. So uh, he typically, and he's doing it again. He's having I don't know what the company is or where they're from out here, but they do these tostada sandwiches,
Oh,
make them to order. They bring their truck and they bring all their
yum.
gear and everything. They set up right in the front yard and they make the tostada sandwiches. And there's always way too many, more than we can eat, right? Um, and then during the game, throughout the day, so Sunday is more than the plan. It's we graze all day, right? So I know steaks are going to go on. I know some type of chicken dish is going to go on. One of the guys does these great ribs. Tommy, he lives in Chicago. He's coming in from Chicago. Tommy does ribs. I'm not positive he's going to do them, but the ribs will be there if he chooses to do them, right? So we haven't finalized it, but we start talking about this literally like a month out. And so, because my buddy, he loves getting everyone's opinion. Oh, what do you think we should do on this day? Oh, what do you think we should do on that day, right? So there's going to be, all I know is there's going to be multiple proteins. But like I said, I probably eat the healthiest when he's in town because we always get multiple salads, rapini, what else? Always vegetables. So it's going to be awesome.
Well, this is what I don't like about the Super Bowl on East Coast time. So it doesn't start until the game starts at like 6:30.
Right.
It's so late. And so it
Yes.
goes so late. So we're basically eating dinner,
Yes.
so like trying to get, because like what's the point of like grazing if there's only so much Super Bowl pre-coverage I can watch, and trust me, I can watch a
Right.
lot of it,
Right.
but it's especially since I don't care about the teams. So it's just kind of like sucky the time, and then it goes till so late.
Yeah.
I always liked the time in San Diego, and we used to always have a Super Bowl party, and it was perfect because people came around 1:30 or 2 game, and then everyone's gone by 7, and you can recover.
Yeah. Yeah. But football, Sunday football is definitely built for the West Coast.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I'm excited, and you promised you would take pictures. I will
Yes.
also take pictures, although mine will not be as glorious as yours, I'm sure, but I'll make it look pretty.
One other cool thing, I don't know if you're going to have this at your party, but so we have squares going. We'll have
Yeah.
squares going. And I'm in charge of and put together prop bet kind of sheet, 2 pages. There's
Okay.
like usually 25 questions. The first questions are point apiece. Then it goes up to 3. Then there's like bonus questions. And
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, and sometimes I just kind of repurpose the same one and just kind of come up with interesting questions. And I'm probably going to do that this year, but I don't know. And so that one isn't so much. That's only, I
Well,
think,
if you do that, send it to me.
sure, I will.
I mean, at this point, it's really just going to be 3 of us. I feel like I should invite some people over. It's
Yeah,
just so late. It's just so late.
it's still fun to see if, is the anthem going to go past 2 minutes, right? Is whoever the half, like, I'll come up with some Kendrick Lamar question. But the key is it's got to be questions that you can quickly answer either as you go or right at the end of the game, because people lose their minds. They are not patient
Right.
at all. Like, as you're looking up answers, I learned that after the first time I did it. And unfortunately, I've won a square 2 years in a row, so I figure I'm due not to win anything this year on the squares. So.
Mm.
But
Well,
we'll see. We'll
maybe
see.
you'll
You never,
three-peat. You
yes.
might three-peat. I'd rather have you three-peat
Then the
than
Chiefs.
you know who. All right, well, let's move into the frenzy, because there are some things to discuss. I think like next week we're going to have all kinds of like stuff to discuss, and we're tabling some of our coaching conversations and some of those other things because we really want to dig into some of that, because some interesting things have been transpiring, but we'll table that. So frenzy for my faves, I just wanted to bring up from a fashion standpoint, GQ Sports. I guess they had a fan nomination thing to vote for the most stylish NFL player, and the winner was Caleb Williams from the Bears. And yes, I can see that. The runner-up was Justin Jefferson, and in my mind, I think Justin Jefferson is a far better dresser. I will never forget that first week when he wore that off the runway off-white vest
Yeah.
and pants. So it was Caleb Williams, followed by Justin Jefferson. I'm trying to remember, like, Derrick Henry was in the top 5, I think. So don't know that I completely agree, but because I also kind of think that Jameis Winston, he every week brought it, but he was more classic. Like the way he was
Right.
dressing was really, really classic. I
Right.
liked it a lot. But anyway, that happened. That was the fashion thing. So we'll see a lot of crazy stuff for the Super Bowl. But interesting how the Eagles had that. I liked their little matchy suits that they had on at the media night. Did you see them?
Yes.
They looked good.
Yeah.
And then my favorite football moment. So I did watch a lot of the Pro Bowl, which I know I'm weird, and it is kind of a weird thing. There were a couple things I really liked about it. First of all, the flag football looks like they're having a good time, but then they stop the game and they do these like contests. So there was this punting contest, and each conference selected a non-punter to participate and then the punter.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to punt into these giant, tubes that were set up like kind of in a grouping all together. But every time it went in, they got a point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the AFC actually ended up winning that one. They lost pretty much everything else. But they had, is it Marlon Humphreys from the Ravens? I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Anyway, Humphreys. He did pretty well. And then the punter came in, and, that was kind of interesting because, you never see the kickers. So that was a fun little game. And then the other thing that I liked watching was the receivers. They had to catch all these crazy balls, and one of them they had to catch with with a pair of mascot gloves on. So basically, these giant hands.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember who was really one of the only ones that actually made the catch, but otherwise, it was just fun kind of seeing the players around. And one of the cutest things that I saw was Baker Mayfield, Tristan Wirfs, and Vita all holding their babies at the same time on the sideline.
Uh-huh.
And then like Mike Evans in the pool with his kids. Like you can see it's very much a family fun time. So kind of cheesy. And I definitely, read and saw all the critique of all of the various all-star games, how none of them are any good anymore. And, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball, I don't even know what they do anymore, but the all-star game, as we have discussed, has changed a great deal.
Yes, definitely. For the better,
I thought it was fun, and so that's my fave, the Pro Bowl shenanigans and the happy families.
Okay. So
What's
mine
yours?
was a more of a rumor that I kind of enjoyed, thought about. I was like, like if that happened, I think that'd be cool. And it basically was that Sam Darnold to the Las Vegas Raiders.
I love that rumor, by the way. I do love that rumor.
But more so also because Pete Carroll is there, I think that would be a great fit. And I think Pete would get the most out of him because Sam seems like the type of guy who needs someone to put their arm around him and believe in him. And he does
Yep.
better when that's the situation. And Pete is Pete does like NFL players hate rah rah, but Pete does rah rah in a way that I'm sure his players absolutely believe in him and
Mm-hmm.
and it's not
Mm-hmm.
somehow it's not phony or fake. Like it's legitimate, and I'm telling you, there's nothing worse to an NFL player than a coach coming in from college with a rah rah attitude. Trust me, like it's the work but Pete does it in a way where it's like, no, I'm going to buy into it and I'm going to get on board. And so I'd say that to say I think Sam Darnold would benefit from that and kind of pick up where he left off before that last playoff game.
I heard that rumor too, and I very much like that rumor. I
Yes,
think that would be awesome.
yes, that would be.
I hope that happens. So my frustration, I don't really have a lot of frustrations this week, again, other than the fact that I'm not enthused about the game. But how frustrating is it to read about Myles Garrett requesting a trade, which you can totally understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy is at the peak of his career. They're never going to win anything. They still have to pay Deshaun Watson $100 million.
Yeah, yeah,
And he'll never see the field again. And that's utter crap.
yeah.
But the Cleveland Browns, of course, coming out and saying, we'll never trade Myles Garrett. And I just think that's frustrating and somewhat disgusting. And I'm sure they're going to probably end up doing it because, there's going to be some great offers out there. And I hope the Bucks make one, even though no one's talking about that. But I would like to see that happen. But frustrating, it must be so frustrating for him. Just, he seems like the kind of guy that really was not ever his intention. And I'm sure he wanted to play his career out, as I'm sure most players do, in one place, if possible. But they're handling it so crappy.
Yeah, of course. And I think kind of he spoke to not wanting to go through and yet another rebuild.
Yeah.
And and he wants that opportunity to play for a championship and be in a place where there's look. Yeah, there has been no stability the whole time he's been there. It's been a carousel
Nothing.
of coaches. It's been a carousel of players at the most important position at quarterback. And there's been varying levels of support. There were some years where it was good, but they weren't able to sustain that and keep going and build off of that success that they had. And so, yeah, it gets. I mean, look, it takes so much to prepare for an NFL season, and then as soon as the season starts, you're automatically tearing your body down, and you can tell. You can look at him and tell what great shape he stays in, how well he takes care of his,
Yeah.
and that takes such a great effort. And to think about, I'm going to go through this however many more times and not never have an opportunity to play for a ring or have that success of that team success despite my individual accolades is it wears on you mentally.
I bet.
Yeah.
I hope they let him go. And I hope he comes to Tampa.
Yeah, look, that's maybe their gut reaction, but look, everyone's up for a trade, right? If
Yeah.
the price is right, they'll move them. Now, NFL owners, unlike other owners, tend to want to impose their will on things. So maybe it's not to a team that he would want. There's ways they say, "Hey, we're in control," right? I don't
Right.
know if you kind of followed this whole Luka Doncic thing in the
Yes.
NBA with that trade where it's the owners taking control back. Well, the NFL owners have never lost control, right? They've always had control, and they always let the players know kind of who's in charge, that type of deal. So oddly enough, that was my same thing. It wasn't my frustration; it was his frustration. And again, I agree with everything you said. That it's unfortunate because he is such an excellent player. And look, he would absolutely be highly valued on the trade market because he's such a great pass rusher,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
such an
Yeah.
important piece of getting to a championship. You got to get the quarterback off his spot. Myles Garrett does
Yep.
it consistently. Everything I've heard, the one negative thing that's come up was, if you remember a couple years ago, the whole Pittsburgh thing where he was swinging the helmet.
Oh,
But
yeah.
on your team, everything I hear is that he's an excellent teammate, someone you want on your team, and can help
Yeah.
someone. So, we'll see how it plays out.
Well, he could help us.
Yeah.
Jason. Hello, Jason White. So that was your frustration too?
Yes.
Okay, so on to the flops.
Yes.
So, for all the good things the NFL does, I would say that they had a couple of flops this week. The biggest one being the praising of the Saints when all that news came out about the Saints assisting the Catholic diocese with media and money when all of the horrible allegations and the sex abuse scandals. What I mean, and Roger Goodell, praised the Saints for I forget what his words were, but I feel like that was a big flop. That's not cool. And it's up to the Saints where they spend their money, but for the commissioner to come out and kind of back them and support them in that, I thought was rather uncool.
Well, I'll say, as you know, or I'll let you know in case you don't. Stuff like that, he doesn't do without, like, he doesn't do that on his own, right?
Right.
Goodell works for the owners, and so he was told, and I'm sure it's a type of situation where ownership of the Saints, hey, we need to be supported in this. There might be backlash. So, hey, how about the NFL supports us as well? And by NFL, I mean those other 31 owners, like, hey, guys, you guys need to support me. And so get Roger to make a statement. Seriously, I mean, that's how it works, you know.
No, that's
Um,
very sad.
yeah, it's Roger is there to take the hits for the owners and to um, push their agenda, and he's well compensated, but he is an employee of those 32 entities that own the team. So yeah,
Right.
I'd be so surprised if he just did that on his own.
well, floppy. And then to remove the end racism from the end zones, I won't even. That's all. I'm not going to go there, but I that's also to me a flop.
I don't, you know what? I don't mind that one. So, because I've always kind of felt, and because I forget about it sometimes, and I'm watching the game, and I'll just see on the back of someone's helmet, I'll see some, kind of. I don't mean platitude. I say platitude. I don't mean it in a negative way, but and it's like, oh, that was kind of disconcerting. Like just in racism, all of a sudden out of the blue. You know what I'm saying? And so that wasn't so much a big deal to me, right? I mean, obviously it was to you, and I don't mean to
No,
detract from
no,
that.
no.
I'm saying,
It's only because, and I actually, Vaughn, big picture, I agree with you because I think it really shouldn't even have to be said.
yes.
But we know why, and we know when that started, and you know, uh, you know.
Look, issues outside of the locker room are always going to be in the locker room. However, sports is, for the most part, at least that I can think of, as close to a meritocracy as we're ever going to get. Where if you do the work and if you're capable and you're better than that guy next to you, you're going to get the job, you're going to get the accolades, you're going to be rewarded. There's still problems. There's still guys who, no, we got to play this guy because we paid him all this money, even though we know the other guy's better. But it's as close as we're going to get. It's as close as we can be to a true meritocracy. There's never going to be a true 100% meritocracy, but like to think that it's pretty close. And so, again, there's problems. That's why we have the Rooney Rule, and you have to, when you're hiring, it's to get. And again, for all the MAGAs out there who might be listening, the Rooney Rule isn't to make sure there are black coaches. The Rooney Rule is to make sure that black candidates for coaching jobs who may not have been seen otherwise get opportunities to get in front of people doing the hiring for coaching,
Right.
and then maybe somewhere down the line, oh, remember we interviewed such and such, and you know what? He interviewed well, even though we went with someone else. But now that the job is open again, let's maybe revisit that. That's the point
Right.
of Rooney Rules and DEI, and we'll talk offline about some of the stuff coming out recently about the whole DEI debacle, where who really is benefiting, and it's not what people think. Anyway, okay.
No,
Again, I'm
it's
on another
not.
here. Anyway, so
Yeah, your flop. To on to your flop now.
my flop was, and look, I give him so much credit because it is what you do. But the story about Drake May recruiting at the Pro Bowl to get guys to come up to New England, because here's the thing.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. And it's not so much because look, all guys do it. Like, all guys want their team to be better and play with their friends and play with their friends who are good players. But the thing is, players respect success. If you're an older vet, not a rookie, if you're a vet who has a track record of success, who I can believe, oh man, if I go up there, now they do have some bona fides, I guess I'll say, in that they do have an ownership group that has proven that they'll do what is needed to win, that they support their players. There's worse cities to play in than New England. However, is it Miami? Is it LA? Is it New York? No, but again, it's not a terrible place to play. So I don't fault him from that standpoint. But um, I'm not quite sure if he's the person with the gravitas that's going to get the great free agents to come up to New England. That's all. But I don't fault
Yeah,
him.
I would agree with you.
I give him an A for effort for trying, though, right? So, but ultimately, I think it'll be a flop.
I definitely agree with you. Interesting. I'll have to go back and read about that. I can't
Yeah.
believe I missed that. Well, we are at time and we are officially on the countdown. So I'm sure we'll probably exchange a few texts here and there throughout the week as things
Yeah.
come up. I hope it's a good game. I think it will be a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see it being a blowout on either side. Do you?
I don't. I'd be very surprised. And just quickly, I guess we should do our picks really quick. Chiefs execute so well. They especially in crunch time, it's so hard for me to pick against them. But I'm picking against them. And it's not just because of my heart, I'm picking with my head. I think the Eagles defense will be able to do enough to keep them down. They got it rolling last week offensively. They scored a ton of points. I don't expect them to score 55 again, but I think they'll score enough. I think they'll find a way to get into the 30s, and I think the Eagles win it.
I also think the Eagles win it. I am going with Saquon, the birthday boy, and I feel like he is just going to kill it. And I do think and hope it will be close. I think it will come down to the fourth quarter, but I'm going Eagles too.
Yeah.
Fly,
Okay.
Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your Super Bowl week, and it'll be fun to talk and recap next week.
Okay, sounds good. I'll see you then.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to But First Football. Please like us, follow us, and subscribe on all of our various channels and social media stuff. And we will see you next week when sadly football's over for a while, but when we'll have a lot of Super Bowl stuff to talk about.
Yes.
So, bye. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, Vaughn.
Bye.